What you're going to do, as I understand today, is you're going to give us the overall plan for what is happening to Memorial Park. And I'm hoping that you can give me some nice maps that I will understand, and you'll indulge me in going, okay, where is that exactly in the park? And then we hope that we will, if it's possible, do another one closer to September, because as I understand it, that is when the more things will happen with the trails as you start to go into that. And so we could do something more trail. Would you describe it? More about the trails?
We could have a trail. It wouldn't be me, but we would have a trail related discussion, a trail specific discussion, mostly south side specific, and I think in the September timeframe.
Okay, and that would be with Caroline White, and
probably with Caroline White, maybe another team member.
Okay, director of
maybe with Gorba. Gorba works closely with us.
I would love to have them on there as well, because we would like Houston Women Hiking. I'm the person that directs Houston Women Hiking. We'd like to help everybody in what we can possibly do. So we are a big group, and let us all get together. So with that, if you do have questions, please either put them in the chat or the question and answer. We'll answer them afterwards. You have to leave right before 1 because you have another meeting. So I'm going to give you the floor. And if I do have a few clarifications, I hope you'll indulge me and let me do that.
Oh, of course.
You're doing that. Okay, go for it. It's all yours. Everybody can hear her and see her screen, I'm assuming.
And yeah, if you can't chat to Bridgette, and then we will make adjustments. I'm Shelley Arnold. I'm the president and CEO of Memorial Park Conservancy. We are a private nonprofit organization that manages a lot of Memorial Park, most of it on behalf of the city, because it is a public park. We don't manage the Arboretum, which is managed by a different and very wonderful nonprofit that many of you know, the Houston Arboretum and Nature Center. And then we don't manage the places the Parks Department still does, which include the golf course, most of the recreation centers. So really at Memorial Park, of its nearly 1,500 acres, we manage 1,100, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And so I'm going to give you some context, some background and context for the park and leading up to the master plan that was approved by City Council and how it was formed and why, and what its key components are. And then we'll also tie in trail commentary as we go along. I know some of you come in with questions, and I might be able to answer some of them during the course, because I'm kind of aware of some of them during the course of the discussion. And then if I can't, I'll answer what I can at the end. But I will say again, we think we should have a trail specific session probably in the September timeframe. So for context, as you're looking, this is slide, as you're looking at Memorial Park, I'm thinking you can see my cursor moving around. The dark green on the screen, the dark color, is the outline of Memorial Park. The south side is bordered by Buffalo Bayou, the north side by I-10, the west side by 610, except there's some acreage here that's kind of skirts into the uptown area. The east side by the Camp Logan and Crestwood neighborhoods, and there's some area down here, which is next to Bayou Bend. Why is Memorial Park significant? Well, it is very significant because of its size. It's, as I mentioned, almost 1,500 acres. It is almost twice the size of Manhattan's Central Park, which are these rectangles. That's 850 acres. And that's just to give you context and some perspective. It's also unique because of its size and composition. So it's, as you know, especially your group knows, it's largely an urban wilderness park. And to find such a large park centrally located in a major urban city is very unusual. And then for it to be composed of hundreds of acres of effectively urban wilderness is so unusual. It's a treasure nationally. You know, that's really unusual. It's also really effectively Houston's largest virtually free public health asset. And you can think of the park, you know, in many different ways. And I know I see how many members of your group use it, and that is kind of how you use it, a lot of you. It's also significant nationally because of its cultural history as part of Camp Logan, as it was actually not part of, but it was a military training camp in the 1917 to 1919 timeframe. It was one of a handful of sites that were selected in the US to convert National Guard to US military because of a shortage of military to go into World War I. And so this was part of the site. The site overall, the adjacent acreage was about 3,000 acres, included River Oaks and Memorial Park. But then there was more acreage up by Addicts and over into Spring Branch. It trained 70,000 soldiers passed through. And the Camp Logan has stories of valor associated with it. It has stories of tragedy associated with it. And as we are unveiling different parts of the master plan, we will ensure that we're telling all those stories, not just the valor stories. The park really is a park for all Houstonians. This is a map of the greater Houston region. You know, you can see Manville down here and Friendswood here and Atascocita up here. This was a survey that we did in 2000, it was either late 14 or early 15. And it showed users coming from 170 regional zip codes. So these little bubbles are where we tagged a user coming from. And it just shows you that this is a park for everyone and everyone uses it. And those of you that go probably see that. You see people of all different kinds of any grouping you can imagine, there they are in Memorial Park. And that was one reason why it's very, very special. It really does hold a special place in so many people's hearts. I mean, we hear stories of course, people like getting healthier there physically and mentally. We hear stories of people overcoming addictions and people meeting their future spouse and people finding community, friendship, finding spirituality. We hear all of these stories. People come every single day of their lives for 50 years. I mean, these are the stories we know of and hear. The drought of 2011-12, many of you may remember, this is a picture from then, catalyzed what is happening now. And so the drought would have killed these trees. The trees died. It was a natural occurrence. It was a natural disturbance. We will have more droughts. We will have more hurricanes. But what was not great is that this land, which has been so disturbed by humans for so many years, it's not a pristine wilderness forest. It exists as, in part, a pine forest because it was a pine logging operation in the 1800s. It was not intended, this site was never intended to be a pine forest. It was actually, much like all of Houston, native grassland, prairie grassland. And so these trees all kind of came up after Camp Logan because the seed bank existed. But what was bad was the land wasn't being managed. And so when the trees died, there was nothing coming up behind them. And that's what people so strongly reacted to. And it is basically the prairie, the forest converting itself back to different ecologies that are more sustainable. We did soil samples and found all kinds of things. We found the evidence of native burnings from the Native Americans, which indicate prairie. It was very interesting. As part of the master planning process, so that drought catalyzed a master planning process. It catalyzed recommitment both from the public and private sector to this park, which had been so severely underfunded. Like all parks, all urban parks in the US and many state and national parks, but I'll speak to urban parks that are relying on the general fund of the city to pay for them, are all underfunded. They are all suffering. So Memorial Park wasn't unique. What was unique about it was that no one had stepped up to fix the problems like has happened more in other signature parks in Houston, or make improvements. And this was Houston's largest urban park. And so it sat in decline for decades. And that was, again, due to funding shortages, not due to anyone's, malpractice. So we stepped up in the 2013, before I joined, timeframe, 2011, 12, 13, and said, we've got to do something. The then Mayor Parker, we've got to do something. The Uptown Development Authority, which is the government entity, local taxing authority that sits outside of the loop, that does not, at that time, did not have anything to do with Memorial Park. We've got to do something. Everyone in Houston, we've got to do something about Memorial Park, this asset in sudden severe decline. And so we started with a public input process, and we ended up, we asked Houstonians what they wanted. And we had an online survey up for at least 3 months. And we had many public meetings. Some of them were public input meetings, some of them were public information meetings. But we ended up through workshops and through some of these meetings and through the online survey, we ended up engaging over 3,000 Houstonians during this master planning process. And that was before design even started. We engaged ecologists. And so we brought in, I should say, ecological scientists. We brought in 25 mostly volunteer, best of the best of their fields, scientists to work with us. And they formed an ecotech panel, an ecology technical panel that advised us for years. And many people are still participating with us. And this group was formed a soil biologist, soil scientists, biologists, foresters, bug people. I don't know the formal words. I actually helped build this group with the Sierra Club, but bug people and frog people and butterfly people and lots of people from different organizations. Houston Parks and Rec, Texas Parks and Wildlife's urban biologists, Parks Department itself with foresters, just so many participants that helped us research to understand what happened and what would be more sustainable and healthier from an ecological perspective, from a habitat perspective going forward. And so one of the things that I mentioned we learned is that to be sustainable, the park really needs to be composed of multiple ecologies that are supported and encouraged with the right kinds of soils and the right kinds of plantings. And we also learned that most of the soils in the park are depleted nutritionally. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're depleted and need to be enhanced, and nutrients need to be added to them in order to really effectively sustain life. And so those were some of the things that we learned. We learned that, as we all already knew, that the whole Gulf Coast was this native prairie that handles stormwater best, that is the most sustainable, that is best for what the habitat that we have, the animals that we have, and the insects that we have. And so part of the work we're doing is an acre by acre plan. We're executing on an acre by acre plan, which I'll show you just kind of concept for in a second. We also looked at the drainage patterns in the park. So what makes Memorial Park so cool, part of it, and the topography that's so interesting, are these drainage patterns, these drainage channels. And what happens is, so much water flows through the park every time it rains. The sheet water flows through. And the bad part of that is, the good part is it's made some interesting cuts and great topography and great trails. The bad part is it pollutes the bio. It floods further downstream. It severely erodes the banks of the bio. So every time we have a tropical storm, whatever name, it can take 15 to 20 feet of biobank in different parts of the park with it. And then that all goes downstream into downtown and into the Ship Channel and into Buffalo Biopark. I mean, and so how can we address that? We don't have the resources to stabilize all the banks of the bio. We cannot do that as an organization. But we can make the park more effective at holding water on site and at taking the water down, filtering it, and taking it into the water table in a healthy way. We can make it more effective at slowing the water down before it hits the bio and cleansing it. And so that's what we looked at with our projects. We also looked at history in quite a bit of depth. And so we looked at the cultural history, not just the ecological history, but the cultural history of the park. And all of these things, from the public input to the science, to the history, to the demographics that we researched, to work, talking to Stephen Kleinberg, to talking to teachers and artists and park users, all of that informed the master plan. And the firm that we hired to work with us, and by the way, I was on board at this point. So I started in 2013 as a function of the drought, basically, when everyone committed back to the park. I joined from private sector and took this role over to step the organization up so that we were 3 people and a $300,000 budget when I joined. Now we're over 55 people, and we took over managing the park. We've worked with our partners on this master plan, and now we're executing. And right now we're spending over $30 million, including capital, per year. And so all of this, this whole effort to define the Memorial Park's future came with extensive and thoughtful research and participation. Another thing that we found in just looking at the park itself, the physical asset of the park, is that it was divided into 25 different pieces with these cuts with roads. This is, by the way, this is the railroad. This is Memorial Drive. This is Memorial Drive. This is Woodway. Ball fields cut, picnic loop down here cuts. There's all kinds of cuts to park, the pieces of the park. And people, one of the most common things that we heard is, I don't know anything but what I use. I don't feel safe going over there. I don't know what that is. What is that? So we heard that. We heard wayfinding. We heard people wanted more picnicking and wanted to bring their kids and wanted to bring their elder relatives, and that Memorial Park wasn't friendly to that. So we heard lots of things. We observed these 25 different pieces. And so with our partners at the time, which were the city, the Parks Department, and Uptown Development Authority, working with all this input, we came up with this master plan. So this is the future plan of Memorial Park. And it's hard to tell what it is. So I'll talk you through pieces of it now, kind of key concepts. One key concept was an acre by acre ecological restoration of the park, where you see these areas that are more like, this is, to orient you, this is the south side that you hike a lot. This is the triangle area that you hike a lot. This is the Arboretum, which is doing its own plan and its own thing, and we're doing them in concert with each other. We're sharing data. We have the same findings. We have the same approach from an ecological perspective. But kind of some key concepts are restore this area back to urban wilderness. So remove the ball fields that are down here. Down here, there's acres and acres, tens of acres of ball fields, parking lots, and roadway. Move that up here. Move picnic loop up here. Reclaim this whole space. And so one of the questions y'all had, this is old Memorial Drive, current Memorial Drive. One of the questions y'all had is, oh no, don't mess up the triangle. And I love the triangle. By the way, just so you know where my heart is, I'm a South Side user too, and a triangle user. That's what I do in the park. I mean, I use the whole thing. I enjoy the whole thing and love the whole thing, but that is where I mostly go as a user. And I feel the same way, like, oh, don't mess this up. The idea behind a lot of what we're doing, this land bridge here, for example, is to connect and stitch parts of the park together and make it accessible. The idea over here, this is that first project we just finished, Eastern Glades. This road was here, it cut 100 acres in half, move it over here, which we've done now, and join this acreage together to make it better for people and animals and restore the habitat. Here, the idea is move Memorial Drive down here to join this 200 acres. Right now you have access to, I think it's 26 acres in the triangle. I could be wrong. But if you join the acreage, it's much more significant for both people and animals. It's better wildlife. And then move the cycling loop up here, but make it also for make this very friendly for hikers. So you have sort of multi-tiered things. And horse use. There already is horse use. Historically, there was equestrian activity in this part of the park. So also allow that, facilitate that. Here, down here, the intention, and this isn't designed yet, just so you'll understand. The intention is to separate mountain bikers and pedestrians. But the intention is to keep this as urban wilderness, largely is really urban wilderness with very few exceptions, with the timing track here and a running complex. But everything else is urban wilderness. The idea with this little space is to create kind of a mini family-friendly, almost like little trail area for kids. I mean, that would be in the future. So by the way, this is all, we don't know, 20, 30 years, 15 years. This is the master plan. This is the long-term master plan. Move the ball fields up here. This is Eastern Glades. Here is the golf course that we don't touch. A tribute to the soldiers here. But that's kind of a quick overview. And then I mentioned an acre by acre. This is illustrative to show you what different ecologies, how they're kind of represented. The dark is, for example, riparian, meaning next to the water, forest. The light is more savanna and prairie more than anything. The medium green is a different type of forest, but it's to show you forest versus prairie versus savanna, that this is actually planned also in the Arboretum. We took the trees from the drought that were 40,000 and we created new soil from those. We have a 2 acre, and many of you have probably seen it. You're like some of the only people in Houston that have actually seen this. Back in the south side of the park, down by the utility easement, we have a biocycle site. That is thought to be the largest of its kind in the country. It's a scientific approach. Those of you who know composting understand that it is science. We took the trees, the 40,000 trees from the Drought, and any other trees, anything green from the park goes here that comes out. And it might be an invasive tree. It goes to the biocycle, and we turn it, and then we sift it, and then it creates soil. And so it's the healthiest soil we could possibly create. And what's odd and strange and counterintuitive is that, you know, a lot of the trees that we lost in the Drought, they are giving more value and more ecological services back to the park in terms of being soil additive, because they create spongier soil that absorbs more water, that allows for healthier, sustainable planting. That you know, and then when you create something like a prairie, it sequesters more carbon. And so it was totally sad, and that was one of my motivators for taking this job. It was very sad to lose all the trees in the Drought. And there's a kind of a poignant cycle of life story that goes with that. And so I wanted to point that out, that's what you're seeing back there. The other thing you're seeing is a wetlands pond. We created a wetlands nursery for wetlands plants. So that's newer. And some of you might have noticed that on the edge of this 2-ish acres. We've won a number of awards, national awards, and the firm, Nelsonberg Waltz, that we're working with, is very good at listening and very good at ecological restoration. There have been major awards that have been won for the approach, for example, the planful and science and data-based approach. So we were working, we had started the master plan, we had started executing this first project, Eastern Glades, and we approached the Kinder Foundation and they approached us kind of simultaneously. And we had been talking, but hadn't really formally talked to them about participating until 2017. And they wanted to participate. They were very motivated by particularly the land bridge and prairie shown here, but just the transformative nature of this work for Houston, but also how it will affect so many Houstonians, the work that we're doing, not just park users, but other people in Houston because of the ecological and stormwater management work that we're doing. And also because some of the work that we're doing will put Houston more on a national map in a very good way. So we work together with them and our other project partners to select the projects that would affect the most Houstonians, the most park users, that would provide the connectivity that we're seeking, both within the park and to other parks and green space, that would help with stormwater management, and that would be fun, that would just be fun. And so we picked a suite of projects, and that is the Eastern Glades. I'm trying to get my cursor here. The Eastern Glades project, 100 acres, just opened. The Land Bridge project, about 100 acres, just started. The Sports Complex project, the first phase of it, which consists of moving these fields up here, that is getting ready to open as soon as COVID slows. The Memorial Groves project, which hasn't yet, it's sometime before 2028, but we don't know when that will happen. That's a tribute to the soldiers. Additional trails, lots of new trails throughout the park. This is what y'all might be interested in, positively or negatively. Some of you will like it and some of you won't, I expect. A trail that is an all accessible trail through the south side of the park here. This isn't exactly where it's going to go, but roughly rounded here. And it will be a trail that will help you orient yourself. It will be a trail that will allow for emergency vehicle access. It will be a wide trail. It will be a trail that will allow for someone in a wheelchair to come in. And so, again, some of you will like it, some of you don't. As a mountain biker, which is what I do, I'm not that excited about it, but I completely understand the need. And we'll work with all the different groups as we design this to make it as user-friendly as possible. But it is something, I mean, this is a really difficult area for emergency vehicles to access, whether they're, fire trucks or EMS. And I think some of you probably have personal experience with that. Hopefully not too many and not too much.
May I interject a question here?
Sure.
I still am trying to get a visual of where the land bridge is as compared to picnic the picnic loop or lane thing there, and the running trail. So does it come in just right before the run? That doesn't make sense. Does it come right
I'm
before?
not sure. I'll tell you. I'll just show you. This light is the light that sits by the running complex,
Oh,
the West Memorial Loop.
okay.
This light is where the trail riders come in, Picnic Lane, right here. So if you go in, so it sits between these two lights.
It's really large.
It's very large.
Wow.
It's like, you know, it's not technically, but from this point to this point is over 3 football fields in length. Wow. This whole thing is about 100 acres, and it consists of a creation of a prairie and a bridge. And so the prairie serves multiple functions, and I'll explain it because it's a really important part of the whole concept. The prairie, that's the most absorptive stormwater ecology we have, and also carbon sequestration, and also sustainable. Water flows from here. It's one of the drainage fingers. Water flows from here. We channel it down to this prairie. It's absorbed. What doesn't get absorbed flows under. There's a wildlife tunnel and a culvert for water that flows under the land bridge, flows into this really big prairie. This is mostly the ball fields and things like that down here. And then right at the edge, there's the purple trail, and I think yellow and red might touch in here too. I'm not sure. Sorry for my ignorance. This is exactly the point of having another meeting with more specifics. They will be affected and impacted, but minimally, and they'll be rerouted by the edge of this project. But you can think of the tree line roughly as the edge, but it's not totally the edge. So there's some impact to trails here, but that hopefully answers your question here. Back to the overall master plans. I know someone had asked about, oh no, don't go in and flatten all this area. That's not the intention. It's probably not practical. But it is the intention to unite this land. It's flatter up here, but it is the intention to move Memorial Drive ultimately down, but not in 10 years. So I have to clarify 10 years versus being by 2028 versus in the future. So the by 2028 is this projects that are highlighted here, is this Memorial Groves, this land bridge, the associated prairies, eastern glades, a bridge here, a trail here, more trails that you kind of see throughout. The outer loop trail was already extended, a running complex, and then connections, trail connections, hike and bike trail connections, one here down into this area, into the uptown area, down over the bio, down to Richmond, up to the over I-10, and ultimately up to the White Oak Trail system up here. And then we don't have ownership for the connection to Buffalo Biopark, but I know other people are working on that. And that is kind of a quick snapshot of the 10-year plan. And now I'm going to jump into, let me see how we're doing on time. I have about 12 more minutes, so I'm going to run through the specific projects pretty quickly, but I thought it was important to ground you in the context. Here are I just mentioned all these projects that are happening and that will come. The ones that we know timing on, just so to be clear, Eastern Glades just opened. Sports complex is almost ready and will open as soon as we can, pending COVID. The land bridge and prairie started construction and will end in 2022. The running complex associated with it close by will be delivered by 2022 or 3. This is the Eastern Glades, so I'll give you a quick overview of this project. I just encourage you to go visit if you haven't. It's people really enjoy it. It's not a difficult hiking experience. There's not interesting terrain as far as up and down goes or anything like that. It's just beautiful. It's a stroll, basically. And it's a lot. There's 2.5 miles of trails and boardwalks that are new through this space. The whole space, which really goes outside these borders, is 100 acres, about. It's organized around an axis here this is Crestwood Street. This is Memorial Drive down here. Crestwood and Blossom, this intersection, this Blossom Street was where one of the 2 original entrances into the Camp Logan site was. And we've honored that and the soldiers that participated in Camp Logan, that came through Camp Logan, with an axis that is an entrance and a pedestrian axis that leads down to the lake, which is the lake. Yes, that is a new lake, a 5.5 acre lake, Hines Lake, and picks up on this side. And so you'll see monumentation in terms of trees and actual physical monuments honoring the soldiers leading down this point. So that is the organizing principle. This is 9 acres of picnic area. There's turf that goes through this space. And then there's islands of native plants. And the native plant islands, we protected these plants, native plants and trees, and added many more in this site. And so just as a reminder from what I said earlier, the Seymour Lieberman Trail and the road used to run right here. And so we moved them, the TERS, the Uptown Development Authority, it was a $5 million move, moved them here so we could join this acreage and create a space for people and animals, a better space for animals too. These little islands, the concept behind them is that they create, first of all, this is a wetlands area, and we are honoring that with these kind of wetlands islands. They're kind of a combination of some wetlands, some savanna, but we kept them. We built some more. We built more wetlands throughout this place. But this adds to the biodiversity and enhances the biodiversity of the area. We've added actually, we've planted 150 native species of plants and trees in this space. So picnic area, that was something people requested in master planning. Picnic pavilions, didn't have any in Memorial Park. Now we have 3. Restrooms, that was something people asked for. 2 new restrooms here, which aren't open, but hopefully soon. More parking, people will ask for more parking. People ask, please fix the park, so please don't let that drought happen again. We can't prevent the drought, but we can prevent how the park responds to something like that. Please help with flooding and stormwater management. And so this is a multi-tiered system. The drainage swales that you see that are native plants along the parking lot, that's part of the stormwater management system built into this. The roofs, I should say, of the restrooms feed into rain gardens that are part of a stormwater management system. All of this area has been enhanced by the dirt, the compost, the soil from the drought trees. And that's why it's thriving. And so wetlands, you'll see wetlands animals anytime you walk through here. You'll see birds and frogs and toads in these spaces. In the lake, it's highly inhabited by wildlife. It's really cool. All kinds of water birds living and thriving here. We planted a 10-foot shelf of wetlands plants around the edge of the lake for habitat, water quality, and for safety reasons, and to keep people out. This is not an active lake. You don't go fishing in it. You don't go boating in it. It's really to coexist with wildlife. There's boardwalks around here. There's a boardwalk through this naturally occurring wetlands area that is caused by a fault line that runs through the park. It's super interesting and beautiful and great for bird watching. And then we have picnic pavilions. I mentioned picnic pads. We don't have tables in the picnic areas yet because we can't because of COVID. But this is just a new, wonderful space for solitude, for reflection, for, I'll say, hiking, for really walking and strolling, for picnicking, for passive recreation, to bring your elder relatives, or bring someone who's more physically challenged. This is what this space invites for kids. This will be a band of Houstonians that chose to enter our postcard contest of what inspires you and what do you love about Memorial Park. Their words will be engraved here. There's a donor bench here that shows you who had participated in this first phase of capital improvements for us.
I'm going to interject here. You said that this is I haven't been yet, and I'm really excited to go. So this is rather flat, because we do recovery hikes for the Houston Women Hiking Group. And everybody's always asking. One of the things that we've noticed was with the Arboretum that there are benches at a certain place where people can sit. So if they can't hike, if they're trying to build up their endurance, they can sit. But you're saying that this is flat and this would be good for recovery hikes.
It would. I would discourage large groups from going. It's not suitable for large groups hiking around, I don't think, especially in times of COVID.
Right.
It's a really nice, peaceful walk, and there's tons of benches everywhere.
Thank you.
Tons of seating. Sure. And I'm going to speed through to try and give y'all plenty of time to ask questions. This is an overview site. This is that access I was telling you about, parking. This is a couple of months ago before it opened, but looking west. This is again before it opened, so the water's level is down right now, but I just wanted you to see the perspective of uptown in the background. Again, looking west. This is a more recent picture. We use this Zorozoiza grass that people seem to really enjoy. Looking through some of the native plantings. This is a current picture, looking, kind of again at the wetland shelf across the lake. Same, but a different angle. Some of the design, I just wanted you to see some of the design feature. It's pretty cool. This is before it opens, so it was still under construction. This is the wetlands area that is kind of the wetlands forest. There's forest and the wetlands area. We have this nice little boardwalk that goes through this, and you didn't have access to this previously. It's really a beautiful area. Great bird watching. That's this boardwalk. Picnic pavilions. We will have food trucks, and we will have little farmers markets. We can't do that until after COVID though. And at sunset. Sports complex opening up. This is a rendering as soon as we can. This is actually now dated. This is probably a month or two old. These fields are almost done. So jumping into Land Bridge, I'll give you just a quick overview of that. The work has started on that project. This is, if you're on the north, this is Memorial Drive. Future, this is a rendering. If you're on the north side of Memorial Drive looking south towards Uptown, this is the Uptown skyline. This, just to orient you, this is where the ball fields and parking lot on the south side of Memorial Drive are today in the road. This is the edge. This is where like the purple trail is in here. So that'll be affected, but we'll move it. It won't be like shut down and closed. It'll be rerouted. So that's the edge of this project. And this is that prairie that I was discussing. It's super important. And this is the other piece for stormwater management. Water flows here, gets absorbed, goes under through this wildlife tunnel or culvert, goes in here, same thing, and then ultimately hits the bayou through a ravine system if it doesn't get absorbed and slowed down. You can see if you're a walker, a pedestrian, we'll have multiple kinds of paths. We'll have some that are concrete, some that are mown. You can see the mown paths that'll, sometimes we'll put those to bed and then we'll open new ones up. There will be an above ground path here, that commuter trail for bicycles and people trying to get from over here to over here. There will be a bicycle path on this one, but not on this one. There will be spaces cleared at the top. These are 35-foot hills, so you'll have a nice vantage point of uptown and downtown skylines. And then you will just have lots more trails. This is a climbing area. These, of course, are accessible. And so that is kind of how the land bridge works. Here is a side view of a future, it's a rendering again. There are two sections to it. Here's another side view. You can see the two different sections and you can see how the water works here. And you might ask about mosquitoes. People ask the same question about Eastern Glades. If the ecology is functioning, the mosquitoes aren't a problem. And the wetlands already were functioning where Eastern Glades is. We're just making them better. And I have not heard anyone complaining about mosquitoes. When I've gone out there myself, brought my mosquito stuff, dusk, I've been shocked at how there aren't mosquitoes. The side view of the prairie here, I wanted to point out that in these projects, we've moved a lot of trees, hundreds of trees. This is an example, not tiny trees. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars moving trees. This is an example of one of the ones by the Running Trail Center that we moved. And then the last thing is, we've grown as an employer from 3 people to over 55 at this point. And we are I came on and sought to create a very, very employee-friendly, progressive culture. We provide benefits that are highly unusual. We are a second chance employer. We bring people in from the penal system and give them respect and give them work and give them benefits, and they give us in return commitment and fantastic work. And so we have a bilingual bonus. I mean, we have all kinds of things that are highly unusual in a place of employment. And if we won this award, what I consider to be pretty early in our tenure, I was frankly surprised because growth is hard. Fast growth is hard. Now, we have a golf tournament coming up. I didn't figure y'all would be super interested, but maybe someone is. It's going to be played, and maybe that was unfair of me to assume that, by the way. it's going to be cool. It's going to be the first tournament played right after the pros play after the Houston Open. It's just a few days after the Houston Open ends. And so if anyone's interested, we have lots of ways to get involved. Ultimately, we'll invite volunteers back again. We have events, we have programming, we have all kinds of things. And I would strongly encourage you to sign up for our Facebook page or for our email list. Go to our website, memorialparkconservancy.org. Get directly involved with us if you are interested in doing so. We have to raise money for this park, not just the master plan. We still have to raise $29 million more for that. But we have to raise $1.5 million every year ourselves to execute, to care for the park, which costs now almost $4 million a year to operate and manage. That's compared to what was spent on it, $400,000 a year on 1,100 acres. Now we're spending over $4 million to do what is needed in the park. So anyway, to the extent that you want to and can participate, please do. And I welcome your questions.
Great, I got a bunch of them here. I have a question for you looking at the master plan and what you're doing. It looks to me that the parking for hikers and bikers then will be on the other side of the park. Is that true? Because it doesn't look like there's any parking on the south side anymore.
No, there is. It probably doesn't show it because the master plan was really at a high level. It was a master plan. Hold on. I'll try to show you. And this is a good question too. That we can talk about that in September. There will be parking. Oh no.
I think this is really an incredible asset. I'm all about education for teachers who are trying to teach science and STEAM. And this just so involves everything. So I hope that I'm going to post this with her permission on YouTube, and then we can share it with whomever we'd like. And let's do some more. Oh, Shelley, you're back. Yay, you're there. Can you hear me, Shelley? Are you there? Connecting audio.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay,
I don't know what happened. Sometimes you can just press the wrong button and something.
It was totally me. Okay, so
you were answering. I know that you really have to go soon. So you were saying there will be parking on the other side.
Oh yeah, there will be lots of parking on the south side. I'm trying to find the slide to at least show you kind of where it is. Hold on.
And also, will the running center move up to the rest of the sports, or will it stay where?
No, it'll stay there. So that's kind of the exception on the south side. Come on.
Some of the other questions.
Okay, here. The running center is here, and then the parking. There will be more parking right in here.
I don't see your screen.
Oh, my cursor. Okay, you can't.
I don't see your screen at all.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a function of the fun we had a minute ago here. Let me try return to meeting.
Apparently, you're still co-host or a panelist. You should be able.
Oh, good. Okay, I got it. Share screen again. Is it host disabled participant screen sharing?
Okay.
I think you have to redo it.
I have to redo you. Well, let me ask you a couple of these.
Yeah, keep asking me questions that don't require visuals, but I will tell you, yes, there will be plenty of parking on the south side. In the short term, some of the parking will be affected by the land bridge construction.
Alex says, how does this, you may have answered this, how does this multi-use trail impact the current multi-use trails, especially the green trail and the connector hiking trail? Will it be concrete or decomposed granite?
I'm afraid it's going to be concrete. I think that's what I know. I don't like that either, but for emergency vehicle access, that is likely what's going to be required. I don't know the timing on it, sometime before 2028. And we haven't even started the planning or design of it. And so there's time to work through how the trails interrelate with each other. But just know that the other idea was to separate out pedestrian, ultimately, I don't know if we can do it by 2028. Ultimately, we're trying to separate out pedestrian and mountain biking. Well, they'll probably still be multi-purpose for some time.
Richard asked the question, one of the concerns I had is where the local woodland living animals, coyotes, armadillos will go with more people on the south side and west of Railroad, and the reduction in size of the woodland areas to what appears to be mostly along the bayou. Can you give your thoughts?
Actually, yeah, I mean, we're creating healthier habitat. And so animals adjust as things change. What you're seeing on the south side of the park now is that a lot of itself is converting to other ecologies. Where places opened up themselves, they're converting. The animals adjust. The animals move. Some different animals move in, other animals move to other areas. I mean, there is hundreds of acres in the park, and it's not necessarily a very healthy habitat right now. We're not adding, what we're not doing in the park, we're not adding tons of new buildings. We're not adding tons of, sort of that kind of footprint that is unfriendly to wildlife. Mostly what we're doing is we're enhancing the ecologies that are friendly to wildlife. And so you'll have coyotes and animals that would be attracted to prairies and savannas as well. And so we're working with urban biologists and people like that to make sure that we protect the animals. Even during construction, we do a really good job of looking after the animals and the wildlife. And the whole fact, like, I'll give you an example. The tunnel under Memorial Drive that will be built that functions also as it's a water tunnel and a wildlife tunnel. It has to be specifically designed for wildlife. So you don't just have a tunnel and it's a wildlife tunnel. You have to put certain lighting, certain shelving. And so it's being designed for wildlife. So we're doing these things with wildlife in mind.
So that's the tunnel between the two land bridges, or?
It goes under the wildlife and water tunnel that goes from north to south, that goes under Memorial Drive.
Wow. Well, this is fascinating. I hope that we could do another in September. I'd like to talk to all the groups of people that are in your organization. And I was just saying, while you were off, that I think that this is an excellent resource for teachers to be able to teach this. So if you could hook me up with those, maybe we can get some of the teachers. We can do a webinar for the teachers on all that's happening. This would be great, because it's just a great resource right in the middle of our city. Thank you so much. And we heard,
actually, in master planning, we heard from teachers that they didn't have enough outdoor resource for history, for other things. And so this will be one of those stops on their tour.
Yay. Yay. I'm Bridgette from the Houston Women Hiking. I hope we can get some other groups involved in the next up and coming webinars. I wasn't planning on doing this. It's just kind of formulated. Thank you, Shelley, for starting it.
You're welcome. Do you got any more questions, or do y'all need to wrap? I have a few more minutes if you have more questions.
I think that's all the questions I see, unless somebody else has put them. Kate to all panelists, do you know how much the current triangle trail will be changed with the addition of that? We talked about that, but with the addition of the new paved cycle track and what the master plan refers to as a more even terrain and improved surface. Will it become a pedestrian or mountain bike only section? The current trail there is what it says.
Well, so the triangle area will be, it's not going to be eliminated. I think some people fear that it's going to be eliminated. It'll be expanded in essence, and that will move Memorial Drive south. But by the way, this is not for a long time. We do not know when this is. We'll move Memorial Drive south down to be closer to Woodway, and we'll move the picnics, what is the picnic high-speed cycling. Which is not only high-speed cycling, but in the future, it will be primarily for high-speed cycling, designed for that in the northwest quadrant. We'll also have equestrian paths there, and there'll be different levels. We'll also have hiking, and I don't know, I think mountain biking we don't even have this planned yet. I imagine that we will still be having mountain biking and hiking back there as well, which is what's done today. There's not an intention to exclude everyone that uses it today, to invite others. I hope that helps. But I cannot speak to the specific trails. There is a whole flat area that's up there already. There's an entire area that's flat. I think that's where some of these trails would go.
There's a couple more questions in the chat section. How is the lighting going to be, and will there be emergency call stations?
On this, on the north side of the park, it will be lit. Areas will be lit much like the Seymour Lieberman Trail is lit. I should say the Seymour Lieberman Trail is lit all the time. On the north side of the park, where we think people will want to, and we would like to invite them to access in the evening hours, those areas will be lit as well. Where we don't want people to go, it will not be lit at night. And now I'll transfer to the south side. It is not likely that most of the south side, if any, will be lit at night, except for on the perimeter, maybe the running complex area. And the commuter trail will probably be lit at night as well. I'm sure it will be lit at night as well, but not back in the woods. The intention is not to encourage 2 a.m. use of the south side of the park. I don't think we're going to have emergency call boxes, but we will have an emergency system where people can identify where you are. So right now, if you're in Memorial Park right now and you say, come get me, I'm in Memorial Park, the police or the ambulance sometimes cannot find you, even if you're in a major landmark area. They certainly have a hard time finding you on the south side. And so we've been working for years actually with the emergency response systems in Houston to put emergency markers so that if you have an accident on your bike, you can say, I'm at marker whatever on the south side, and they'll know where to find you. And so that's probably as close as we get at this point anyway.
I think it's really important. I mean, we've had 1 or 2 accidents back there, and I'm sure the mountain bikers have as well. So issue of directional trails for bikers, runners, hikers being addressed. Yes, I think that was addressed. And we are gonna, with your permission, Shelley, do we have the permission to place this recording on the internet?
That's fine.
Okay. I think I've asked all. If I haven't, you want to put them in the chat or in the question and answers. Someone said, I think the group had a question about the current colored trails being impacted in the future. I think you went over that. So
to the extent that we know right now,
yeah,
I share what we know right now.
Someone keeps asking, are there 2 small land bridges or just 1 larger one?
It's 2 large land bridges. And so it's 2 large mounds, but then we're also building another smaller bridge over on the east side of the park at some point before 2028. We don't know when, but the land bridges themselves are 2 large mounds.
What will that happen? How will that affect the traffic on that street?
From a permanent perspective, it'll be the same. It'll be, I mean, the road will be shifted slightly, but it'll still be 3 lanes each way. From a temporary perspective, it'll really be minimal impact. We're going to shut 1 lane of Memorial down on each side, keep 2 lanes open. So keep Memorial Drive open throughout the duration of the construction. And it will be 1 less lane. And actually during COVID times, that's not too bad. And even the traffic studies that we've done have suggested and said that the traffic won't be that impacted from, I think it's Westcott to 610, just because of the timing of the light. You might set it 1 light longer than you do now and 1 light shorter, but your commute time to get from point A to point B is about the same still.
When do you start that?
The traffic, well, the work's already started. The traffic reduction will happen in September. The lane reduction will happen, and we'll give plenty of notice. We'll put, signs out on Memorial Drive well in advance so people know that it's coming.
Great. I know you have another meeting at 1, so I don't want to keep you. Come back.
Well, thanks everyone, and enjoy. Go see Eastern Glades. Do it safely. Wear a mask. Socially distant. Don't go when it's crowded. But appreciate your interest and that you care for the park.
One more question. What are the rules with COVID in the park right now?
Well, unfortunately, our restrooms are still closed, but we're looking at, I should say the ones we manage, we're looking at how to open them safely. It's a question of both user safety and employee safety. It's a very difficult challenge. We have certain things closed still. So anything that would facilitate group gathering. Many sports fields, for example. And I'm speaking now broadly for the whole park, not just the part we manage. Things that can be done solo or can be done safely and distantly. We want people to be able to use the park. And so we've agreed with the Parks Department to keep the trails and things open, but you just have to be respectful of other people and you have to keep your 6 feet away. And if you see someone coming and you're on the south side, step off the trail and let them pass, I'm a mountain biker and I always stop and I always let other people pass. I know not everybody does, but wear a mask if you're going to be around anyone. And if you're going to be if you're going to be in Memorial Park, you're probably going to be around somebody. So if you're able to, I know some people cannot wear masks for physical health reasons, but if you can do, it's mostly that. We have exercise equipment still closed down. Things that people touch are still closed. Water fountains are still closed. And so I just want this to be over. like everybody else.
We all do. We all do. And there are a lot of different people on the trails, and I've said this before. So be cautious and be careful, because you may be okay, but the person next to you or the person coming
That's
to
exactly
you,
right. Assume they're not.
Yeah.
I hold my breath when I'm outside, even passing people on the street. I hold my breath until if they're coming up to me, and that's out of respect for me and them, and a mask.
Well, yes. And I mentioned that I saw a mountain biker hold his breath as he went by me, and I could cry because I wear an oxygen concentrator.
Right.
So I can't, my oxygen concentrator can't wear a mask. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, not everybody can.
No.
And just, be kind and be respectful and be thoughtful and be careful.
Yes.
Those are the main rules.
Yes. Let us know how we all can help you, Shelley. We want to be a part of it.
Thanks so much. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.